My name's Julie Burgess-Manning. In this series of videos, I'm going to take you through some ideas for working with children and families in post-disaster situations. Now, we're not just talking about big natural events that might happen in your community, large-scale disasters. We're also talking about more local, familial events like death or divorce that might happen in a family, because the symptoms of anxiety will be similar for both those kinds of things. I'm a psychologist, and I was part of a team working with children and families on post-disaster anxiety resources after the series of earthquakes that happened in New Zealand in 2010 and 11. The other part of the team is Serena Dixon, and she's got a background in behavioural special needs teaching. We produced some resources, some books, Wishes and Worries for teachers, Maya and the Worry Bug for families to work with children, and Rising Tide. And the movie was called Everything is Going to Be Alright. The resources were aimed at the population that was feeling significant but mild to moderate anxiety, and we packaged them up in a way so teachers and families could work together with their children in the way that best worked for them. Massey University also researched the project that we did, the Worry Bug project, and from that research derived some ideas that would help make post-disaster resources more effective. When we did this project, we were inspired by the stories people told and the things we learned about how they managed after a distressing event. And we thought it would be a good idea to package these ideas up so that other professionals and families could use them in similar situations. And we wanted to look from a variety of perspectives. We wanted to look from the psychological, from the physical, through a relationship and community lens, as well as the spiritual, to get a holistic idea of well-being. So what we've found to be helpful after a distressing event from these ideas is three main things. Connection is very important to people. They want to be around others. The second is physical and spiritual self-care, how we might look after ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And the third is some actual specific psychological strategies you can use with yourself and your children. So in this series of videos, we're going to investigate those three concepts and link them to evidence so that you know that they're well grounded. So in this first film, we're going to look at the symptoms of anxiety that you might see in your child or even in yourself. And we're going to look at some psychological methods for dealing with those symptoms. Dougal's a clinical psychologist who has many years' experience working with children and families. He's also a psychologist at Victoria University, where he trains clinical psychologists to do what he does. So Dougal, do you want to tell me a little bit about the signs that you might see of change in a child after some big event or something that's happened for them?
Look, there are lots of different changes, I think, that parents could notice in their children.
Yep.
They could be things like disrupted sleep. Kids can't get to sleep at night, or they wake up and have nightmares. They want to come into mum and dad's bed.
Yeah.
Could be they're more jumpy than usual.
Yeah.
They hear a loud noise and they suddenly startle like that, which is more so than usual.
Yeah.
There could be times even when children feel, it's almost like they're re-experiencing, they're going through the big event again. Those symptoms of feeling like that's happening again, of trying to avoid places, of having that really a big startle effect. That's one group. And then in another group, there's kids who will just seem more worried, more uptight, more on edge.
Yeah.
Maybe some physical complaints, sore stomach, headache, just not feeling great.
Yeah. That first group you talked about, they sound a bit like the fight-flight stuff that people might have heard of, you know? Like, so something happens and they haven't actually got kind of conscious control of what they're doing. They're just doing a response.
Absolutely.
Whereas the worrying stuff is a bit more like you talked about, being in your head a bit and in your physical body.
I think we know that when some big frightening event happens, and it's some event that kids have found really frightening and really worrying, if you want to, we talk about the autonomic nervous system, and that's the fight or flight response, and everybody sort of knows a little bit about that. So that's when your body is feeling, your body's going into protective mode. But what that means is your heart starts racing, you might get adrenaline flowing around, you might be sweaty. It's difficult to go to sleep because you're always on edge and on alert. Hyped. A bit hyped. And if that happens enough, if that happens time and time and time again, that system is going to be live and online a lot more.
Yeah.
So kids are going to be in this constant
It's a bit
state.
wired and hard to learn at school.
Hard to learn at school, hard to concentrate
Yeah.
because you're always sort of looking out for danger.
It's like vigilant.
Yeah.
We know that some of these signs you might see in your children will retreat by themselves.
Yeah.
But some of them won't. And
Yes.
as a parent, when do you think is the time to do something or intervene?
Just to go back to your first point, I think you're right. We know that lots of people after a big event experience a lot of these sort of behaviours, these symptoms, if you like, and that over time they do get better.
Yeah.
But to go to your second question, when should parents do something about it? I don't think there's any time that's too soon. You don't need to wait to help your kids.
Yeah.
Sure, there might be a time when you become so worried that you need to go and seek professional help, and if that's the case, then do that, of course. Go to your GP is a really good start. They can help point you in the right direction. But as a parent, just I think it's never too early to be sensitive to what your child's going through and to help them, because you could actually help them transition back to normal, if you like, even more quickly than might happen normally.
So could you tell us a little about what you might do then as a parent for those two kind of classes of signs and behaviours we've been talking about, the more trauma-based ones and then the anxious ones?
Yeah, okay. So I guess for those behaviours, those signs, those symptoms in kids that seem related more to the event themselves. So that's like feeling like it's happening again, or being really startled, or avoiding places. I think probably the first thing I would say to parents is actually make sure that you provide a safe, calm environment.
Right, yeah.
So that if you think back to what we talked about, if your autonomic nervous system is going haywire and you're always on edge, you need that time just
You need to be calm.
You need to be calm.
Yeah.
You need a place where you can go, or where your child can go, that they feel settled, they feel calm, they feel comfortable.
So you want them to kind of almost enact it or make it happen in some way to process it again?
Yeah, I don't know if reenact it, but at least... I mean, as adults we would talk about it.
Yeah.
But for kids, talking about it isn't always the best thing. They might play it out. They might draw it out.
Yeah.
They might. You could be very creative. They could make their own little movie about what it was like before and after. This is all a way of helping them process it, if you like. And that's got to be right. That'll be right for each family, and it'll be right for different ways in different cultures too.
Yeah. So can you tell us something that you might use quite actively with a child who's got more of those anxiety kinds of symptoms?
Okay. So for kids who are perhaps just generally worried, not necessarily connected to a particular big event, but are generally worried, and they might have some physical symptoms as well. So for those type of kids, I guess there are two things that I would think of. Firstly, there's helping kids verbalise or put on paper or somehow get the thought out.
Yeah.
Traditionally, if it's adults, you get them to talk about it. But for kids, they might draw it. You could make a cartoon. What we're trying to do is to understand what the worry is in the child's head. Yeah,
so get that thought that might be recurring for them, that they're going over and over.
Yeah. I'm really worried about my new teacher at school. I think she's going to be really horrible.
Yeah, but how do you think those thoughts are connected to the behaviours?
We know that those thoughts often lead or trigger off different feelings. So if I'm thinking a lot that I'm going to have the worst teacher in the school at the start of a school term, then I might feel really worried inside. I feel anxious, and then my body changes. So my stomach feels knotted and butterflies in your stomach. I might need to go to the loo a bit more often. So they're all sort of connected around with each other.
Right.
So in terms of helping kids, it's identifying that worry.
Yeah. So what they're thinking.
What they're thinking. And not discrediting that, realising that that's real for them at that time. So identifying that, and then in as warm and supportive a way as you can as a parent, helping your child to actually gradually go to that situation or get into that situation that they're worried about. Yeah, there's a really delicate balance between being sympathetic and attending to how your child's feeling, and on the other hand, helping them not to be robbed of their life by their anxiety.
Yeah, not to be overcome with it and thinking about it all the time.
So thinking about that example of a girl that I knew who was really worried about going to school. She had this worry, going to be the worst teacher in the world, really didn't want to go to school. Now, the parents in that case, they absolutely validated her feelings around that. It does sound really scary. Man, I can see why you wouldn't go to school. It sounds really hard. And do you know what though? We're going to help you go to school. We're not going to...
So not avoiding it.
Not avoiding it. We're going to help you go to school. And that could look like a whole lot of different things. You know, we're not, but it will involve parents being supportive. So it could be going to school with their child a day beforehand to look at the physical environment, just getting used to it. It could be trying to arrange a meeting with the teacher beforehand to say, so that they can meet.
Ease the way a little bit.
To ease the way. Could be telling the principal or the teacher, hey look, my child's really worried about this, what can we do? So there's, so you're not letting your child avoid that situation, but you're gently helping them to get into it.
Even though they might still have those feelings.
Even though they might still have those feelings.
So acknowledging that with them as well.
We know this is going to be hard. We know that
they're not going to go away straight away.
No, they're not going to go away straight away. And the good thing, and that example that I was talking about, when the child got home from school, the parents, of course, were, how's that going to go? And they said, how was the teacher? He said, it's the best teacher I've ever had. One of the key things there, though, was to come back to the original worry. Oh, wow, that's so amazing. I'm so glad that you had a great day.
Right.
Can you remember what you said at the start before you went? No? Because often kids can't, right? You forget about that stuff. Well, remember you said to me this morning, I'm so worried I'm going to have the worst teacher in the world and she's going to be the worst teacher in the school. What do you think about that now? So helping kids to go back and reflect on how accurate that worry was first, because we know that when people worry, they're usually blowing things out of proportion. Now, they're not doing that deliberately, but that they see something as more likely to happen and the consequences of it being really big, and you lose sort of perspective. So having them come back to that thought after things have gone well
and have some reflection on it.
Have some reflection and being able to put some perspective in it. So, but there's a balance between understanding and empathising with your child and at the same time supporting them not to avoid the situation.
You know, I'm going to ask you a bigger question now. How do we know this stuff works? Good question. We don't want parents going, well, why should I do this anyway? So the type of treatment, I guess we're broadly talking about, is something called cognitive behaviour therapy, and that's a flash name, but cognitive just refers to thinking, and behaviour refers to doing. So if you go back to our example, we've talked about the importance of identifying what somebody's thinking and then doing something differently. And we know that for problems like anxiety, that type of treatment, cognitive behaviour therapy, or CBT for short, is really effective. So there are some points that need reiterating, I think, from that interview. Anxiety symptoms generally seem to fall into two groups after a distressing event. And the first group is those that re-experience the situation they've been through. The second group is more a generalised anxiety or worrying. So they need different things. Of course, there'll be some crossover also. The first group needs to re-experience the situation in a very calm and safe way, be able to work through their story with somebody that they trust. The second group needs something different. They need to be able to be exposed to their triggers and also not avoid the situations that are worrying them. Now, we need to do this in a developmentally appropriate way. We know that logic doesn't work for most little children, and they also need it done in a safe environment with people that they trust. So a parent is a really good person to do this with. It's important to work together on this as a family too, because we know that children can't do it by themselves, and if you work as a family, the synchronicity of that will make change happen in a better way. In the next video, we're going to look at some physical and spiritual ideas you can use for self-care for yourself or others.